Hello there, and welcome back to today's episode. Before I talk about today's topic, I want to let you know that if you are interested into this project in more detail, you might want to check out my Discord server. It will inform you about recent videos, a build diary about the process of the past streams from 2019, as well as giving background information, showing many images about the park, and it serves as a meeting place for anyone interested into this journey. So check it out. From this point on, I will show you in each episode an overview picture of the park. This will help you to quickly visualize on which area we are working on in the park. As you see, we focus on the Star Trader gift shop, on which we did the layouting in the last episode. Today I wanted to talk about the iconic thematic style of Tomorrowland. There are certain features that make an area work and bring it to life. All theme parks share this principle. So from music, sounds, entertainers, staff, attractions, rides, lighting, foliage, environmental conditions, special effects, and maybe even the smell of a certain dish. But two of them stick out the most. It's the architecture, and especially for Tomorrowland, the importance of using color. Everything you see in Tomorrowland has a certain color, so when you take a look on the ground, for example, there are only bluish or grayish or more darker colors. The human brain will subconsciously process this information. The essential idea behind this is to influence your emotion by color. Blue colors are mostly associated with coldness or a sense of modernism. So if you will, your own senses are helping in making this area feel actual futuristic. At this point, the architecture comes into play. Most buildings feature rounded or angled shapes, which we normally would not see in that intensity in our everyday normal city. And that is what makes it strong. Creating an anti-world of your everyday world. Just remember what is written down most prominent over the gate while you're entering Disneyland. Here you leave today and enter the world of yesterday, tomorrow and fantasy. And to end this topic, the next time you're visiting a theme park, just sit down and try to figure out what is making this area work. What color has the bench you're sitting on? Are there any specific buildings around you? How are they shaped? Is there music playing? How does it smell? How crowded is it around you? What do you feel? With this thought exercise, I hope you get a deeper and more clear understanding how a theme park works. And maybe, if I someday come to Disneyland, the first thing I would be doing is sit down on a bench and try to feel everything around me. As pathetic this might sound, I wouldn't go for the next best ride or running from one ride to another ride. I would try to follow the natural flow of the park. Let your curiosity be the guide. And inhale this extraordinary experience of being in a fantasy world that lets your imagination rise beyond the limits of our otherwise boring everyday world. I hope that this was somewhat useful, and the next time you visit Disneyland, try it out. Maybe it will give you a more immersive experience and see things that you would otherwise overlook. So here you can see me using those bluish art pieces, and I make them even at a slight angle. And if you would stand directly in front of them, I think you would get the sense of like that the wall is actually falling onto you. And I think this effect gives the building a much more dynamic and modernistic or futuristic look to it. And also the color, you have this really bright and shiny neon blue. And I mean, damn, that's a great color actually. I really like this color. But shiny is the word here because in Planet Coaster those art pieces are in a semi-gloss. So there's no real way to make them actually glossy like in the reference. And I really hope for Planet Coaster 2 that they add this feature so that you can make those art pieces actually differ in their roughness. So you have art pieces that are completely matte in a semi-gloss or super gloss. And as I already said, if you combine this feature with giving those art pieces an actual texture to it, then there are no limits anymore. And I don't know if you noticed it, but while I'm constructing those blue art pieces, I actually can't understand why I did it in this way. I mean, there are certain ways you could reduce this piece count of those art pieces. They are just not optimized right now. So as you can see, the second row of those art pieces are basically all pieces, and I could just use one art piece alone to cover this area. But considering the amount of pieces in Main Street, maybe I didn't care too much at this point. But this brings me on another topic I might want to talk about, and I can't understand it until this day. So you have to understand that as the park grew in size, naturally I used much more pieces. I always added a piece, so the piece count consistently got higher and higher and higher. And normally you would assume that the performance in relationship to the piece count would also decrease in time. And sometimes I felt just that this didn't apply, because when I added billboards and rides and basically things that are not scenery, I felt that those things have the biggest impact on the performance. And that's also why I excluded the dark rides like Haunted Mansion from the main park, so you only have the outer building. So I moved the indoor ride in a separate save game. When I did that, I saved like 3 to 4 FPS. 3 to 4 FPS, maybe you say it's not that much, but for this park and this size of the park, it's a huge deal. And so I believe that display sequencers or anything attached on the ride, or when you have billboards, especially with video, so those things I think have a much more impact on the actual performance than relationship to piece count of the park. In the end, maybe even scenery will decrease the frame rate at some point, but I think it's way easier and efficient to just save on the right side and for the display sequences and all that stuff, and just focus on the scenery, because this is basically 99% of what you're seeing in the park when you look at it. So right here you see me constructing this little, I think it's called in English bay window, or some form of shop window for the gift shop. In Germany we have a lovely name for such a building element. It's called an Erker. And if you smooth it a bit, Erker. by the way, I really love this wall, the shape of it, and also the coloring on it. It reminds me a lot of modern architecture, and especially the part where the wall goes into this 90-degree shaped angle. And I can't help myself, but it reminds me on the Elbphilharmonie in Hamburg, in Germany. And I don't mean the building, I mean the concert hall inside. So the concert hall has also those curved surfaces and basically multiple elevation levels where you can sit on. Sometimes those situations where the wall goes basically smooth shape around an angle. So the next time you may suddenly visit Hamburg, I really recommend a visit of the Elbphilharmonie. And one last part to the Elbphilharmonie. When you enter the building, there's a very long escalator, and it's quite an experience. So definitely check it out, it's really worth a visit. So at this stage I try to lay out this rounded shaped area on the corner of the building. And so you see me here using the small wooden bracket again. In a minute or so I redo this step, because I initially made it way too small. Later you see me constructing this structure that looks like a rocket, and it has to basically fit into this rounded area. But as you can see, it would obviously collide with the roof of the Star Trader gift shop, and that's why I do this round shape much bigger. And oof, you see those legs in the recording. It's actually not YouTube or anything like that, it's just in the footage. So you see my PC is actually working quite hard here to not collapse. So at this point I just do some shrubbery and foliage and nice looking flowers. And I also try to make those colors a little bit in contrast to the ones you see on the floor and on the wall and basically everywhere in Tomorrowland. And this is of course also a big thing, how you can influence a guest experience with flowers and trees and foliage. And in Tomorrowland not that much, but for example in Frontierland or in Critter Country you have great use of foliage. And yeah, so far this will conclude today's 5th episode already. In today's episode we mainly built the Star Trader gift shop, and I talked a lot about how a theme park works and hopefully how you can make your experience in them a lot more deeper and immersive. So I hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you did, subscribe, like or comment. If you want to see more, make sure to watch my introduction video or check the playlist of the time-lapse series. Thanks for watching, see you in the next one. Goodbye.